Okay, so this is the assignment for week 2 called the argument essay pre-writing and plan. So, and this is when I say it's sort of a busy week, this is it's because you're sort of doing a lot of the
Mr.
main
B,
work. Yeah, go for it.
I'm so sorry. I have a question about the previous
Absolutely.
discussion.
Yeah, totally.
Now, now, when we start listing things that people can be mentioning that are negatives, does it have to come from a scholarly source, or can we just brainstorm some of them?
No, you have to find it from a source somewhere because there's another exercise coming up in maybe next week where so the idea is it needs to be real so that meaning right you find it in a source so that you can then pull it out because otherwise you're just making it up, right? I mean, we could all
Right.
make it up. You're sort of so if you just made it up and then refuted it, that doesn't do much for your own argument. So you want to make sure you pick something that is just for real.
Okay, thank you.
That makes sense. Okay. Okay, good, that's perfect. All right, so let's do the assignment part. So the discussion is finding an opposing view that exists. I'm surprised it doesn't say quoted, but maybe that might be next week's prompt where you have to actually quote an opposing view. So that's a little future look. So you want to find something that's opposing. I have um I have done a PowerPoint where it suggests reasons why people have difficulty with this. Like if you're having trouble figuring out like what your opposing points are, that's usually because your like your three supporting arguments or your thesis just isn't narrow enough or clear enough, so that it's harder to figure out what something that's opposing. I mean, it's easier to find an opposing argument if the argument you're making is clear and direct and specific. Um, Otherwise, you sort of um, I don't know, are just sort of struggling. So, but I'll put that up later. Wherever I put it over here. Okay, so pre-writing plans trying to make you do this, right? Your thesis statement with a clear stance, and that this is the thing. So it's again, it can change, right? It doesn't mean that like it's forever. But let me go to the thing I made for the class, and this worked last session pretty well. But actually, I'll show you from your area. So if we go to the week 2 discussion place, the latest thing that I put there, I think, or one of them is this group document. So first of all, if you're not seeing this document, one thing to do is to make sure that you're using Chrome as your browser. If you use your Chrome as your browser and you're still not seeing the document here, you can just click access the page and it'll open up in its own little place. But I tried to make it so that we could just type directly on it. Um, and the idea behind it is that everybody puts up um, their thesis statements, right, and try to come up with your three main ideas, and I can comment on them right on the page, right? And also we can see other people's stuff, right? Meaning like that it helps sometimes, if you're looking at other people's theses and my comments, and like it can help trigger stuff in your own brain. So that's the idea, is that and that's why I made it a group document. So whenever you get a chance, like whenever you think you have the something going, um, just put your name here, put your thesis as far as it goes, and three main ideas if you have them. Again, you might not have all three right now, but that's why I can help you. The main advice is you want to come up with a thesis statement where you use the word because, and you want three main ideas in which you use the word because. Because if you can do that, it means that you have, sort of a good argument, meaning thesis statement, and you have good supporting arguments. So that's something to keep in mind. But right now, I'm imagining people are just sort of going to, figure out what their position is about something, and then come up with these three. I made this example last night. The burning of fossil fuels must be made illegal. I think that's just too difficult for me to do. Like it's still way too broad, because I talk about people can adapt to it, fossil fuel companies can adapt, and we can use alternative energy to replace. I mean, I think that's too. Anyway, I'll work on that myself. But like I said, so if you,
Question.
yeah, go for it.
So when it comes to like the opposing views,
Yeah.
or arguments, how many should we have an opposing argument for each one of our arguments, or when we write our paper, or is it gonna be
Eventually, yeah. Like eventually, that's the idea, is that you have three opposing arguments, and it's sometimes it is a one-on-one. Like you have your argument, and then someone's opposite that, and you deal with it. But sometimes you have your arguments, and then the other side has counter arguments, but maybe it's not like clearly one-to-one. So, but you can still do them. So eventually, we want three for the discussion post for this week. You only need one.
Okay. So do we state all three of them in that discussion post, or just
No, so the discussion post, well, this group text, I mean, this group document is sort of a thing that I made, for us to use. So there's that, and I'm hoping, people even are trying to come up with what their main thesis is and what their three main ideas are. And if they, if they can't, then that's why I can go in and try to help them, create three or think of another one or whatever. But for the actual assignments for this week, the discussion assignment, you just need to do one opposing view. So you find one of them, and you want to find it. So it says you want to find it in an article. So you need to find, it needs to actually exist. You can't sort of make it up like I sort of did, but right, you need it in an article that you found. You want to find somebody who's, say, well, it doesn't even have to be an article that opposes your article, right? You can have an article that's supporting everything you're saying, and in it they talk about opposition, right? So if I have this article about how, federal government should make marijuana legal, in that article they're going to say some people have said this is a terrible idea because of these reasons. And I'd be like, all right, boom, I'm going to take one of those reasons out. I'm going to just state it and explain it. So this one is against my view because it talks about this and da da da. I'm going to do the thing where I give in to it a little bit, like I find a way to agree with some of it. But then pretty quickly, I move on to the part where I strengthen my own argument. I'm like, well, while you were sort of right about this one part, I'm still more right, or whatever. You're sort of crushing their argument. So that's just a discussion post for this week. Eventually, for the essay, like nearing the end, everybody will want to have three opposing arguments. But I wouldn't worry about that now. I would just worry about finding one. Any other questions about it? Does it make sense? All right, so the class document thing, that's for us. So when you have an idea, or just make yourself do it whenever. So I'll just check in on it every once in a while. It's a way to, like, when you're working on it, you can put it up, and then I'll see it and I can make comments on it instead of having to like wait and all whatever. So that's what that is. And that's just in the discussion for week 2 that I just put there. So that's the assignment. I mean, that's the discussion post for the week.
when we do that discussion post, are we doing it in that same format that you put there, where we write out our three and then the opposing, and that little table.
Oh, this thing. You want to do it in you want to be in paragraph form,
Okay.
right? For the
All right.
just for the discussion post. So instead, right, you'll talk about the opposing position or whatever, explaining it, and then right. So you're going to turn it into 2 paragraphs for that.
Okay.
This is just for, and I'm going to keep this, and I usually keep this group document like, for the next few weeks as people start to figure out and shape and stuff. It just gives us a way to like work on it, and whenever people have a chance to take a look at it. And seeing other people seems to be useful for sometimes. Like you see other comments that I make about other people's or other people's ideas, and sometimes that helps too. So it's
Okay.
tricky doing a group document when we're all sort of separate. So that's the discussion post. You're going to have 2 paragraphs. You're basically trying to find an opposing argument in an article, an argument that's going against what you're for. You're going to bring it up. You're going to try to find some way to agree with it a little bit. And then you're going to shoot it down by either you can bring in some more information you have. So I was actually doing the electric car thing. And I'm going to get rid of this one. So like I was pretending that my position very basically was that we need to replace gas cars with electric cars. So then I pretended that I found this. I really actually do need to find it in an article, but I'm going to say that in an article, someone said, yeah, but it's not that great because electricity is still made by burning coal. And so that pollutes the air. Go, okay. So I say some people will argue that electric vehicles are just as bad because of the pollution that power plants make. And then I'm going to go on to talk about how we'll convert those to like solar plants and wind plants and all that stuff so that will stop too. So I'm sort of agreeing, being like, yeah, you're right. Right now, it's not the best thing ever, but shortly it's going to be much better, something like that. So it's just finding a way around the opposing position. I don't even know if I like this example either as much, but so then again, this week it's a template, so all you really have to do is fill it out. Sort of gives you, little guidelines. So you have your thesis statement. So I usually say it's 1 or 2 sentences, sort of the broad idea. Then the pre-writing idea is there's a bunch of ways to do it, but so they're trying to get you to brainstorm. Just try to think of a list of 3 reasons why your stance is important and why does it matter, right? Like you're just trying to think of 3 reasons that why your position is valid or your argument is valid or important. And then you're trying to just brainstorm, make up 3 possible opposing arguments, like what others may say against you. So you're going to be saying, I'm for this thing. What will people say against me? So this one, you really are just brainstorming and thinking and making it up. Then we have the introduction paragraph, and you need to have 4 scholarly sources. So here's the thing that I've just remembered now. They want 4 scholarly sources, and they want you to at least have 2 that go against your position. So maybe that will be helpful, right? As far as finding an opposing view, you have to find 2 that go against it anyway. And for the final draft, eventually, you'll still need those 2. So you're trying to find 2 that are in support of your main position and 2 that are opposed to it. And so again, that could help you if you found stuff that was. That's the whole assignment.
But it doesn't have to be 2 and 2, right? It could be 3 and 1, or
No, they want for this one, they want it to be 2 positive and 2 negative. Like, so 2 that support you and 2 against. And so you want to at least find 2 that are against. And like, because also, right, you need to end up with having at least 2 that are against by the very end also. So now they're just trying to get you to figure it out. See if I can find this.
Do the articles need to come from the library?
No, but they need to be scholarly. So what is
Oh,
that?
okay.
So that just means basically what I'm telling people is if you find an article and you scroll to the end of it and it has references, and maybe footnotes or whatever, that's closer to that. That's something we could consider scholarly because most things don't do that, right? A Newsweek article or Time magazine, like if you read it, they don't do anything. So we can't really use those like popular magazine stuff or whatever. Not for our scholarly sources. You can use them for other stuff later, but no matter what, we want to get this sort of core number of scholarly sources. And you don't only have to go through the library. In fact, Google already, I mean, Google Scholar is another thing that Google does automatically.
Yeah, I was about to say Google. I know they have like so if you type in something in the Google search, they have scholarly article option usually at the right under
They'll
there.
start, yeah, usually it's at the top, and they're like, do you want scholarly? So you can click on those. The only problem is sometimes you'll find an article, but you can't really get to it because I don't know, you have to pay for it or whatever. So if that ever happens, I take the title and I go try to find it in the Chamberlain Library because universities all subscribe to these big databases that regular people don't. Um,
That's good to know. I hadn't realized I had difficulty finding things specific to what I wanted to write. Other things is I couldn't find a DOI number. Well, link. Is that okay?
yeah, sometimes not all of them have it, so I wouldn't worry about it if you can't. I mean, that's supposed to be one of, but not even all of the ones in the. Yeah, don't worry about that. So it's all about keywords, obviously. So yeah, but Google, I still think it does a better job. But you get a bunch of stuff that you can't really use or that doesn't really work. Um, I just got to think of a better. I need a better. See, I'm doing the same thing that everybody's doing, meaning I think my subject's too broad right now, and my 3 main ideas are still too broad. So it's making it very difficult for me to find an opposing view. And that's usually when we're struggling to find opposing views. That's exactly why. Um, it's because we're still too vague or too broad. Wait, did I might have already downloaded this thing. I'll show you. Oh yeah.